Hey guys, my name is Jocelyn with The Studio, and today we are going to be making a felt rainbow steffi. Here's what you'll need. From our website, you will be able to get a pattern which includes a few different pieces. You'll need some scissors, paper scissors to cut it out, as well as fabric scissors for when you're cutting felt. Some embroidery floss, some pins, and a sewing needle, as well as a few different colors of felt. Here I have 3 colors that I'm going to use for the actual rainbow. And then I also have some white for the clouds, as well as a big white piece that I'm going to use to back my whole project. The first thing I want to do is take my big rainbow pattern and cut it out. Now you should have a piece that looks like this. Next, we are going to take the pattern that doesn't have the clouds on it. We're going to cut this out. Now you should have these 2 pieces, and we're going to start cutting our felt. You can use any color for the base of your rainbow, which is actually going to be the back. And so I'm going to go ahead and choose this white. We'll put it on our felt and pin it in place. Once all the pins are in place, I can begin to cut. So using my fabric scissors, I'll cut all the way around my rainbow. And when you pin your paper pattern into your felt, you want to make sure that all of the pins are on the paper. You don't want them to be coming off, or else you might accidentally cut your pins with your scissors. You don't want to do that. Once you have cut out your base piece, so a rainbow that's all one color, you can take the pins out. Now you're going to take your rainbow without the clouds, and we want to choose our felt that matches the color we want for the very top ring of the rainbow. I want to use red. So now I'm going to take my red fabric and pin my rainbow to the fabric and cut it out. once you cut out the color for your top ring, we're going to take the pins out again. We're going to take our same pattern piece and we're going to cut off that outer ring. So I'm going to take my paper scissors and cut. I'm going to put this aside, and now you'll see I have a smaller rainbow. Now I'm going to take my middle color. So the color that the light blue will represent for me is orange. So again, I'm going to take my orange fabric, pin my rainbow down, and cut it out. Now my orange piece is finished. So again, I'm going to take the pins out. Now I'm going to cut the light blue piece off of my paper pattern. Take your paper scissors, do it carefully. Alright, and now we have our smallest little rainbow shape, and I'm going to make mine gold. I'm going to take my gold and pin this. Again, when I'm pinning, I want to keep the whole pin on the paper. I don't want to do it like that. This is wrong. Okay, so I just cut my third ring of my rainbow. And now we have one more piece to cut out, the clouds. So you can take your original rainbow piece, and now we can actually just cut the clouds off of this. And if you want, because both of these clouds are the same, so this it's just turned the other way, you can actually just cut one out and cut two of these. So I'm going to take my white felt, I'm going to place my cloud on there, pin it in place. And then cut around my felt, making little clouds, so cute. to take all of our pieces and start to assemble them. Start with our base cloud. And now we're going to place our red on top, our biggest piece of rainbow. And then our medium-sized rainbow. Now our tiny small inner ring of the rainbow. And what will happen later is we are going to also put these clouds on top. So this is what it will look like. So cute. Now that you can see it's starting to look like a rainbow, it's time for us to sew it together. Now for construction. It's time for you to take your embroidery thread, and we are just gonna pull a little bit off of the skein. So this is probably from my left shoulder all the way out on my right arm. And I'm gonna cut it. So with embroidery thread, it's really thick. You can actually see that there are 6 strands here. And we have to separate those into 3 and 3. And once we find them, we can just pull very carefully. As you're pulling, you just want to make sure that you're not going too fast. And if it gets too long, you can set it down and then grab it from the middle again. And pull, pull, pull. All right, now I have 2. I'm going to set one aside and we'll use it later. Now we're going to take our thread and we want all of it to be even at the end. Sometimes if it's not, we can snip it. So I'm just going to take my scissors, snip off the edge. Now I want to take my needle. This is an embroidery needle, and I know that because the eye is really big. So you can see the eye here, and I'm going to thread my needle just like that. And sometimes it can be a little tricky, so if you need to ask a grown-up for help, then definitely go do that. And remember, you can pause the video at any time if it's going too fast. Okay, so I might need to clip this again because I'm having some trouble threading it. That's okay. All right, take my embroidery needle. All right, and you've threaded all 3. Once you've threaded all 3, it'll look something like this. You want to have a short end right here. This is called your tail. And then at the end of the long end, we will have a knot. So it'll look like this. Here's your tail. Pull, 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 and you'll find your knot. So we have to make a knot. We're gonna do kind of a triple knot here. So we're gonna make a little loop, and then we're gonna go through it, not just one time, that would make a knot, but we're gonna just go through 3 times. And then when we pull, we'll have a triple knot. And now I can cut off the rest of my thread, and we are ready to start sewing. The first thing we will grab are our 3 rings to our rainbow, and we're gonna make sure they are all pushed together. So once these are all lined up nice, we want to start by sewing a straight stitch around the top of the yellow and orange. So the inside and the middle ring. Again, so we're going to start sewing the top of the inside ring and then the top of the middle ring in a straight stitch. So we'll take our thread. Now when you are beginning to sew your project, you always want to start on the underside. So what I mean by that is if you start here, we're going to see your knot at the top. But if you start on the bottom, it'll be hidden. We're just gonna do an even straight stitch. So that's one stitch. Then we're gonna take our needle, come up from the bottom, right next to our last stitch. Come on up, and if it gets tangled, you just gotta be careful that you're going nice and slow. Because sometimes that can happen. Sometimes you'll notice a little not even, but I just got it out, see? Pull. Go in. Up. And down. And we're gonna do this all the way around. Up and down. Once you get to the end of your first ring of your rainbow, and you go in and make that last stitch, if you have enough thread, you can actually just go right on up and start your second rainbow. So here's the back. And now if you look, I can actually just push up here and continue going. If you don't have enough thread and you see that it's really short after you finished your first one, you may need to tie a knot and then just grab a new piece of thread and continue sewing. So we're just gonna continue. I'm gonna sew all the way around my middle ring, just like I did this one. So I'm just gonna sew, 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 and obviously it will take a little bit longer because it's a longer line. And now I'm almost done with the second ring. So I'm gonna finish the last stitch, and you'll see now how we tie a knot on the back. So I'm gonna barely pick up any felt right next to where my thread comes up. It's gonna create a loop. I'm just gonna go right through that loop and pull. And I'm gonna do that again. You also wanna make sure that when you're pulling, you pinch your thread, because if I don't pinch my thread, it's just gonna make my thread come out of the eye of my needle. So I wanna pinch and pull. One more time. So I'm gonna use my needle to get right through the very, very top layer of felt. I don't wanna go too deep. It's gonna create a loop, and then I'm gonna go through that loop. Now that our 3 loops of our rainbow are put together, it's time to line up our clouds with the back base piece. Let's start with our base. Line up our rainbow loops on top and place our clouds on to match evenly. Now we want to pin our cloud only to the rainbow layer, not to the base piece. So I want to pin it in place. And then on this side, I'm going to pin it in place again. And take my base piece and put it to the side. Once your clouds are pinned to your rainbow, we are going to use a similar technique to attach the clouds. So we're just going to take a straight stitch along the top edge of each cloud. So it'll kind of round as we go. I ran out of thread sewing my rainbow, so now I'm going to take a new piece, and remember this is also split into 3 strands. Take my sewing needle, thread it, leave a tail, and the reason I leave this tail is so once I start sewing and it starts getting to the point where the tail is too close to the fabric, I can pull it, and this actually means that I don't have to pull super long every time I stitch, but I can kind of adjust the tail as I'm going. So on my long end, I will put a knot. There we go. Clip it. And we're just gonna start right here. I'm gonna go in the cloud. And remember, whenever we're starting, we always wanna come up from the bottom so that we hide our knot. Just gonna keep going along the top edge of the cloud so that both of my clouds are attached. And then once I finish attaching one cloud, I can take the pin out because it'll be nice and secure. So up and then in. And you'll see I'm just going along the edge of the cloud, following that curved line with many small stitches. And then again, once I've gotten to the end, I will turn my project around, and on the back side, I'm going to tie a knot. We're going to tie this knot the exact same way by barely going in through the fabric and then going through the loop. Barely into the fabric and through the loop. And now I can snip that off. I can take this pin out now because I know my cloud is nice and secure. It's not going anywhere. Now I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Once you have finished sewing your 2 clouds onto your rainbow, it's time to sew both of our rainbows together so that we can stuff it. You'll have one piece that looks like this. This is going to be the front of our project. And then you're going to have your base piece still. This is going to be the back. We'll line these 2 up so that they are the same. I want to match everything up. Once you match it, it'll look kind of like this. Now we will pin it in place, and when you pin it again, you'll go down and then back up through the top to really secure it. I'm going to put 3 pins in. Now that my pins are keeping everything together, I can start sewing all the way around my project. So I'm going to do that, but I want to leave an opening right at the top because I need to stuff it with my polyfill. So prep another needle. You'll have your sewing needle. Your embroidery thread should be 3 strands thick, and you'll want a knot at the end. Don't forget to tie your knot or else it's going to slip right out of your project. And you'll have a shorter end, which is your tail. We're going to start right here at the top, not the very tip top, but kind of off to the side. I'm going to show you how to do a blanket stitch. So you're going to start by sewing up. Also, you might want to do this on a fabric scrap first. You'll sew up again right next to it. It'll create a loop. You're going to go back through that loop. So we're going to try this again. You're going to go up, pull until it creates a little loop, then you'll go back through the loop. Up, pull. Again, do this nice and slowly. If you get a knot, you just kind of got to work it out. Usually they're pretty simple as long as you don't pull too tight. All right, it's out. I've got my little loop and I'm gonna pull again. What it does is it creates little stitches all the way around, as well as a thread that kind of borders your whole project. So let me show you up close. I'm gonna sew up, pull, pull, pull. There's a loop, and go back through the loop. Sew up. Make sure if there's any little knots in there, carefully get it out. Pull, create a loop, and go back through. We're gonna do this all the way around our rainbow until we get back to the top, leaving a few inches open to stuff our rainbow. And if you're sewing and you run out of thread, you have a few options. You can either tie a knot, just like I showed you before, where you take your needle, put it into your fabric, and then find the loop. Once you find the loop and pull, you'll create a knot. Do that a few times, and then snip off the thread, and then thread a brand new needle, and continue from there. Or you can just take another piece of thread and tie it to the one that you're working with, and you can just continue to sew. All right, now that it's getting short, I'm gonna take a new piece of thread. So I have to cut it from the skein, and then remember, you want to separate it. So 3 and 3. If you don't separate it, it might be extra hard to get through your needle. So just work carefully, pull slowly, and keep pulling nice and slow. And I can see my piece is not straight anymore, so I just want to straighten this out so it's not twisted. It'll help me pull nice and even. I'm going to thread my needle. Tie a knot. So if I wanted to, I could tie this, instead of tying a knot on the edge or end of my thread, I could just tie these two pieces together right here at the base. But I'm going to go ahead and just tie this off. And you could tie it like this, or you could tie it the way that I showed you earlier, with the thread still on the needle. And I'm gonna continue. I'm just gonna start over from where I was. So pull, go through the loop. So before you sew it all the way shut, we want to make sure we grab our polyfill so we can stuff it. You can either take your needle and pull it all the way off right now and set it to the side. That way it doesn't get in your way. Or if you want to leave it attached to your thread, you can just stick it into your project just barely, just kind of like when we were doing the knots. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the side. And you can see we have an opening for our rainbow right here at the top. And now we're gonna take our polyfill and stuff it. I don't wanna take a big chunk all at once. I wanna take a little bit at a time and separate it into small, fluffy chunks so that I can work each little piece all the way down to the end before I add a new one. So I'm gonna grab a little bit and work it down to the bottom of my cloud. Gonna take a little more, work it to the other side of my cloud, and keep working in small chunks, pushing it all the way down. And then once you fill your cloud, you're gonna fill the bottom of one side of your rainbow. Again, I'm gonna take this and make my polyfill into a bunch of small pieces. So I'll take it and break it into small pieces right now so it's just ready to be stuffed. So now I'm gonna keep working it all the way down to one side. Keep pushing it down into the cloud so it's nice and fluffy. Then I'm going to start working on the other side. So you can kind of see a difference now. This has some fluff, this side's still flat. I'm gonna take some more, separate this, push it down, down, down. Take another little bit. Again, push it down all the way to the cloud. And if you feel like it's hard to get your fingers all the way into the cloud, you can take something like a dowel or the back of a paintbrush or the back of a pencil and push it down. I'm gonna take more of my little polyfill. I'm just gonna keep on doing this, kind of alternating back and forth, do one side and then the other. So I can stuff in here on this side, and now I'm gonna put some more stuffing on this side. And we're gonna do that until it's all full. Now that my rainbow is all the way stuffed and looking super cute, you'll see that I just have a little hole that I need to sew up. So I'm gonna pull on my thread, take this end and re-thread my needle. I'm gonna snip the edge, pinch it tight, and then I'm just going to continue my blanket stitch. So it might seem like you have a big hole, but we're just gonna pinch and then continue the blanket stitch up and through the loop, up and through that loop, up, pull through the loop, continue this all the way to the end, just tucking and pushing your polyfill back inside your rainbow and squeezing tight. It'll all go into the right place once we're done. Almost done. Our hole's getting smaller and smaller. And once we have met our other stitch, we can tie a knot. So I gotta do one more stitch there, through the loop. Awesome. And you can actually still see the knot on the back of here. So we're gonna tie the knot in the exact same spot. So through the fabric, through the loop, through our felt. Oops, that made that little loop a little too small. I'm gonna pull on it a little bit more. And through the loop. Now I can cut. Once you finish your rainbow, you can go back and clip any of the extra threads that might be hanging off a little bit. Here it is. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. For more videos and patterns, go check out thestudiobakersfield.com.